Hi, doing? My name is Patrick. If you're a roofing contractor or even in the construction business in general, what we're going to talk about here today is how to advertise your roofing business or construction business, depending on what you have. Basically, how do you generate a consistent flow of sustainable calls and leads every month? So, advertising your roofing business, which way is the best, and what's the outcome of it? So if this should sort of help you, at least guide you in what to do, and in order to try and work out how do you get a consistent flow of calls every month, so you're not sort of stopping and starting all the time. So we'll get on with it. Onto the next slide. Okay, so if you're a roofing business owner, to finally have a system and a process, not just for generating calls and leads, but so you don't have to worry again about the next time you sort of hit a quiet period. Does this sound too good to be true? Well, let's go through it. Let's have a look, and you can draw your own conclusions on it. I'm going to share with you 4 actions that you can take to bring in calls and leads every month. This is stuff that you can start yourself and that you can work away. So you should have a good bit of information out of this to help you with your business and promoting it. I'm also going to share with you the single most challenging marketing issue facing most roofers and contractors. How do you generate a sustainable, consistent flow of calls and leads, which is the main slide, and then how do you overcome the biggest challenge facing contractors, and then 4 ways that you can use to generate calls and leads that you can help yourself with. Okay. So only a roofing company owner with a predictable system for attracting new clients can grow their business consistently and profitably. Now that sounds obvious, but if you don't have a sort of a streamlined system in place to help you plan ahead for the months ahead, it's very hard to sort of keep things going. You're going to get back into that cycle of fits and starts. So we did try and solve that problem. So if you're looking for a predictable way to generate above average calls and leads, then you're definitely in the right place. My name is Patrick Thomas. I'm founder and owner of roofclient.com. We're a roofing marketing agency. Basically, we specialize in roofing marketing, but we do have some contractors in general on with us. Basically, we help build out roofing brands from start to finish. How do you basically, if you've got no presence online, and then how do you build yourself up within 12 months to be the #1 local roofing authority? We take roofing brands from 0 to #1 ranking inside of 12 months in most cities. For exceptionally large cities, that will take longer, but that's an average. We're the #1 roofing marketing specialist in Ireland, the UK. We run roofing Adwords campaigns in Ireland, the UK, US, Australia, and fairly internationally, really. Okay, this is a slide here showing the amount of calls we did in 2020 during COVID. We did 5,135 calls for our contractors that we would have generated consistently throughout COVID. So that was a fairly, low average for that year, simply, because of everything being shut down, but we still did 5,000 calls. And the majority of those are roofing contractors, but we do have other contractors on board. This is an older slide here, 2018, we did just do 2,500, 3,500 calls in 2019, 2020 we did 5,000, which you saw there. Last year we did, I think we did 6,000, and this year we're expected to do around 8,000 calls for our clients. This is just some slides here showing some of our campaigns. What this shows here basically is the roofing AdWords campaigns that we've run. The blue here are the clicks on the ads. The red is the impressions, which is basically when somebody views an ad. And then the average, the yellow here, is the cost per conversion. So in other words, what does it cost the roofer or contractor to get that call? And then the amount of calls in green here, what they generated throughout the campaign. So on this one here, there was 293,000 impressions. So people saw that ad 293,000 times. It cost a roofer around €31 per conversion for that call on average. and they did 629 calls for that campaign. This one here, €33 on average per call. Those costs have gone up now since COVID, but phone calls, he did 517 calls there. And then for this one here, the cost per was €18 and 169 calls. Now those were all on Adwords, and those are the average cost per the campaign for basically this is just to give you an idea as to sort of the numbers we do and what we can do, so we know what we're talking about. These are, here is just slide captures of the campaign for individual roofers running at the particular time that this slide was taken. So these are average numbers for the last 30 days per campaign running. This one here, campaign 177 leads for 30 days. These are all actual calls. These are not email leads. These are calls straight through to the roofing contractor. 103 calls here for this one, 78 calls for the last 30 days for that one, 51 calls for that one, and this campaign here, 96 calls for the last 30 days. Now, those numbers vary quite a lot. It depends on the roofing company, how long they're running the ad, how sort of, how far advanced into the campaign that the ad campaign has been running. So our expertise basically is helping roofing contractors generate a consistent flow of calls and leads to their business so they can build out brand authority and expertise locally so they can grow their business predictably over the course of time that they need to. This section basically, we're going to look at how does marketing stand at the moment. Remember, what we're talking about here is, how to advertise your roofing business, which is the best system, and what are the outcomes of that. So we need to look at how marketing stands at the moment to give you a perspective and a picture of it. So how things stand at the moment is we have two core systems into advertising roofing business. You have traditional marketing, which involves flyers, newspapers, directories, door-to-door selling and referrals. Those are the primary traditional systems that have been around since probably going back further than the 70s and 80s, but for a lot of the roofers, and contractors looking here, they would have been running this since the 1980s into the 1990s for traditional marketing, and some of this works for roofers today, and some of them do it all the time, and that's fine. The modern system in marketing is which is digital marketing, which is mainly paid ads, Google My Business, which is the maps, and then you have the website for your SEO, online search, you have social media, online directories. They're all the digital marketing platforms and systems, and we're going to talk about basically, well, which of these do you use and what are the outcomes and which one is the best one. Okay, when we look at the traditional end of marketing, we're going to look at here at local newspapers. That's probably the most established traditional system of marketing. And when we look at what are the average costs of newspapers, what are the average costs, what are the average numbers you're going to get in the average cost per call. So we talked to a few roofers that have run ads in the past, and that some are continue to run ads as it is as a top up to everything else. And we talked to one roofer a few roofers, but they were saying about 600 to 800 for 4 to 6 weeks of advertising in any local newspaper. Now, this will vary depending on how local your newspaper is and where you are, what city you're in. It can be higher, it can be lower, but this is an average. Again, it will depend on the ad size, newspaper and city. Volume of leads, they said an average about 2 to 5 leads weekly. This will, again, depending on quiet periods and low periods. A true average is about 100 per week, costing you euros. Sterling will probably a little bit lower, on 80 sterling a week, and 2 to 3 leads throughout the year consistently. That would be about an hour-ish of the numbers we've got. So monthly costs 400, 8 leads on the low side, 12 leads on the high side. So we're looking at about 10 a month So the cost will be about €40 or 30 pounds sterling. Those are averages. You can argue up or down, but those are fairly conservative averages. That's what you're looking at for newspapers and what you'd be paying. So that's just to give you a perspective into the local advertising side of it. Now, when it comes to the traditional marketing versus the new system, there's a number of assumptions that roofing contractors and people in general have been getting wrong. Number one is making the assumption that they're similar. Yes, they're similar in that they both provide advertising as a source of leads, but they're not at all similar in the outcome and what they deliver and the costs and the scalability. There's no similarity whatsoever other than they do deliver leads. Digital marketing will deliver 10 times the results. A quote from Perry Marshall saying on the internet, 5% of businesses take 95% of the business. He has revised that quote now, saying that 2% take 50% of the businesses take business online. Each generation that grows up with digital devices are moving further and further away from traditional services, from the traditional source of advertising. In other words, how a 20-year-old will look for a service they require against a 50-year-old, they'll be very different. If a 4-year-old can find something on an iPhone, well, there's not much, running newspaper ads is questionable. It's not that it shouldn't be done. It's certainly a source. Online brand authority is the difference between a big leading roofing contractor in your area, and then just being another struggling service provider. I'll explain why when I go through this further. Digital marketing, traditional marketing is good, and it can build a business to a point. But for growth and to be a leading contractor in any city, you need a strong brand and online presence. And when we look at what you're getting for newspaper advertising, like I said, it's not that you shouldn't do it. It's just that as a main source, and I'll show you the numbers here. For example, a city population of about 250 to 300,000. With the correct online system, you can be generating anywhere between 80 and 120 calls a month, again, depending on the time of the year. But those would be fairly conservative numbers. When you start, you won't get those calls. But we have roofing contractors all the time that would generate those numbers. And you sort of would find it difficult to get that with newspapers and flyers. Again, as I say, it's not that you can't, and not that newspapers shouldn't be part of your system. It's just that as a main source, it's not. It's quite difficult to scale it and get the numbers you need, especially when it comes to predictability. Another thing you got to remember is how people search for information has fundamentally changed. How people search for information 10, 15, 20 years ago, often we find most roofing contractors are often fishing in the wrong pond. For those who have started their online presence, a lot are still applying the 1980s, 1990s online marketing sort of view, that in thinking that if I have a website, I'm online. And of course, that isn't the case anymore, because now having a website, everybody's got a website, and you're not even, I suppose you're not even at the starting line if you've got a website. You need a website. It needs to be ranking, have authority, be optimized. People need to be able to find you by not just putting in your name. The days of just having a website are well and truly over with. It's gotten competitive, and it's getting more competitive. And we'll talk to you how you can sort of, cope with all that competition as well. Online search now, ask yourself, when a potential client looks for your service, what actions are they taking when it comes to finding a roofing contractor? If you talk to one of your clients, the last few clients that you had, or maybe even the next few, ask them how they found you, and what source of information are they searching to find you, and how they got in touch with you. So when we look at the typical search process today, yes, people look at newspapers, yes, people look at flyers, but when we look at the majority, where is it going over the next 10 years? how will people search for information with the easiest possible source, to access your information? Well, it really comes back to the device that you're holding in your hand now or on your desk, and that's the mobile device. That's your most convenient device by which people source for information today. All the other sources exist, but this would primarily be the easiest and will be the main source of search going forward. It has already passed that computer, so your website there is already on the back foot. From the point of view, websites were developed for your computer, but people are now using a mobile phone, so websites struggle with mobile devices. Even with search, with the different designs that are out, they still struggle, and they were never designed for it. So your typical customer today would search on, they're going to pick up their mobile phone, they're going to put in the keyword search, which is probably roof repairs plus city or the area that you're in, and what will be delivered to them on that phone, and where do you need to be with regard to that in mind. So when you look at a mobile device and you put in roof repairs for your local city, and you can do that now yourself, if we take the iPhone, for example, Google are giving you 3 options primarily to choose from, and within those 3 options, 2 of those are primary for Google, and this third option is by all means secondary. But however, you still can't dismiss it. So the number 1 option is the very first 3 to 4 listings at the very top of your phone are ads, and they're at this stage a little less distinguishable as to being advertising. So if you put in roof repairs plus your local city, whether you're in Dublin or Liverpool or Bristol or wherever you are, see what's coming up for you. Look at who's listing on the ads. There are 3 ads at the top, and depending on the quality scores and where they're ranked, you can place your ad there. If you pay Google, they'll put you there, and if the ad is any halfway decent, they'll put you there round the clock. As long as you keep paying them, you can pop up there. So that would be area 1 as priority. The second area are the Google Maps or your Google My Profile. Now this is basically underneath the ads usually with the picture of the local map, and then you have the yellow stars with the listing, and it gives you 3 options here of the most local or the most best optimized roofing contractors closest to the address for which you're searching will be listed here, and then often there's even an ad which takes over position 1. So if you're running an ad, you can actually be in the first section and the second section. So being seen twice by your prospect, by the homeowners. So underneath the maps, with the My Profile section, you have the organic section, which is really, so if you're putting in roof repairs plus your city, the top 10 listing of websites in the organic rankings, which have been optimized through SEO, will list in that section. Now there is a 4th section, which again, if you skip all those top 10 listings, Google will present you again with ads again down the very end of that. So when the true picture is basically when somebody goes from top to bottom of a mobile device, there's 4 sections, just 1 is repeated twice. So if you're in the ads on top, you could potentially be on the ads on the bottom. You can also be in the Google Maps. So giving you 3 out of the 4 places you can be. Now, if you have a website that's optimized, you can be all 4 places. You can certainly be in 3 at the very least. So that's what Google are presenting you with. We're looking at Google primarily because it's the largest search engine. Bing are doing something similar with their ads, and they're taking a lot of the search out of the Google searches as well. But those are the options with regard to where you need to be seen. Okay, so tomorrow's most successful roofing business owners and contractors in general are basically embracing the online marketing as a primary source of leads, simply because, building a strong brand with an online presence is absolutely essential to be a roofing leader. From a numbers point of view, from a scalability point of view, from a consistency point of view, you need to be online. It needs to be your dominant source of online search. When you compare that against newspapers and flyers and all the other sources, you cannot get anywhere near the numbers consistently and reliably against the traditional sources. Now, again, as I said, not that you shouldn't be doing it. To have as many fishing lines in the water is have as many as you can. That's always good, but you should absolutely prioritize the online source. So in this section, we looked at current marketing options, traditional versus current. So we looked at the newspapers versus the digital marketing options, and basically we looked at how prospects search. So now we're going to look at the biggest challenge facing most roofing contractors and how that ties in with advertising. So first of all, we're going to talk about running a business. Now, you don't need me to tell you about how difficult it is to run a business. You already know that yourself. But to understand what I'm talking about here, the primary challenges are dealing with different problems, juggling the amount of different things you need to do on an ongoing basis. Advertising your business is just one more source challenge among the 5 or 6 challenges you would do every day. So managing staff and labour problems, handling quiet periods, balancing all the pieces of work, keeping on the show on the road, paying wages, taxes, all those sort of things, are the sort of the daily challenge of an entrepreneur. So when we look at when we take a look at the overall picture and what's going on, you really have within any business, you have a series of sort of highs and lows or peaks and troughs in running any business. You're doing well today, tomorrow you're back on the downside of the hill, and then next week you're climbing again, and then you're back into another quiet period. So it is a sort of a series of ups and downs or peaks and valleys with regard to running any business. And it always seems like you're either going uphill or coming downhill, but rarely on a flat surface. So taking that into mind with the highs and lows, how do we sort of move you into a level surface and get a more consistent flow of, a consistent flow of calls and leads coming in, so you have some element of predictability in what you do. So the biggest contributor we find with the roofers and the contractors we deal with, it really is I suppose to that issue of peaks and valleys or highs and lows will be an inconsistent flow of calls and leads every month. That's probably the most primary challenge that we found that talking to our contractors would deal with. That it's really if you can sort out that issue in making that flow of calls more predictable, you can sort of level out the playing field by which you're on. So as a sort of a metaphor, how do we level out the surface? So we're going to use the metaphor of cutting a road through the mountain to try and level that surface. Now, in doing that, if we're going to do that, how would one do it? And how do you possibly try and sort of cut a hole through the mountain so you can level out the playing field and try and keep that consistent so you're not facing the next uphill climb again within a short period. Now, not an easy thing to do, but it can be done. Okay, so when it comes to basically doing this and using the metaphor of driving a road through a mountain and cutting that high piece off the mountain so you can have that level road going through, well, the only way of doing that is to build out your brand authority and expertise online. So that's part one of it. So putting you in a position of authority which will cushion you when circumstances changing in the future, and you and I know those circumstances will absolutely change, and it's never too far down the road. So to finally have a sort of plan to deal with that, inconsistency, that unpredictability. So building brand authority and expertise will be part one of that. And then basically once we start doing that, we can then out of that start generating a consistent flow of predictable calls and leads every month, allowing you to sort of plan and grow your lead volume consistently, so you know exactly the cost of each call and how many you're going to get each month, so you can plan ahead. So how do we do that? Okay, well, how we're going to do that is sort of outlined in a lot of what I already told you. But when we look at our prospects here, where they search, and we showed you here some of the area. If somebody is looking on a device, they're going to look at, the first thing they're going to see is Google AdWords. They're going to first 4 listings, then they're going to scroll past that for roofing services plus your city. Then they're going to go to the maps and they're going to see another listing of roofing contractors here, the closest to them in their geographic area. And then remember, there's also an ad sometimes inside the maps, so they'll see that listing. And then the third source is the organic listings with using your website, having an optimized website. The first 10 pages for whatever keyword you're listing, if it's roof repairs plus city that you're in. Remember, there's a different listing for flat roofing repairs, in your city. That's a total different listing of websites that come up here. But again, some roofers can list in the same areas twice. And then the fourth source would be Facebook, social media advertising. These will be the main sources that your prospects are going to be, that you can find their leads. That's where you need to pull. So if you have built out your authority and expertise, dominating these four sources will be a primary objective if you want to try and, so like I said, cut a hole through the mountain and put a road that levels out that surface. You will have to be in these 4 places in front of your prospects, because that's where they're searching. I pointed out here the 3 primary locations, or it's actually 4 primary locations, because we have Facebook as well. So if you're an authority and expert in these areas, you're going to dominate most search. Yes, advertising in newspapers and flyers are all good, but all secondary, all is backup, all is a top up. You want to be here because this is where the volume is, and this is where, over the next 10 years, it's going to be growing. Newspapers are not going to be growing flyers. They will tip away. Newspapers will always be there, but they're not going to be growing. In fact, it's been declining. COVID has leveled an awful lot more newspapers. So this is where you want to build your authority and expertise. So the roof client system that we use to help you advertise your business, we set out to target homeowners who need your service now, so you can generate a consistent flow of calls and appointments. We build out your brand authority and expertise using the sources that we mentioned, and then out of that we generate more calls and leads, so you can have, like I said, a more consistent flow that you can plan ahead each month as to the number of calls that you get. This is one of our clients here, South Dublin Roofing. Alan Carter is a contractor here. We've taken him from 0 calls up to 150 calls a month. In fact, 180 calls that's gone up to in some months, not every month obviously, but an average will be between 80 and 120 calls a month. They're the number 1 roofing brand in South Dublin. They're probably the most established brand at this stage and most exclusive part of the city. About 33% of their calls are now brand related calls. So about a third of all their calls would come in from people searching their brand name. That's sort of how established they are. So building that authority and expertise, well, they're really a high quality roofing contractor, going after all the premium homes in South Dublin. That's their sort of primary area of expertise and their authority that they would have in the city, in their area. Another roofing contractor here that we worked with, Gems Roofing. They're early in their process, but we've taken them up to 60 calls a month at the present moment. it can go up higher if we add on with adding on AdWords and so on, but they're generating about 60 calls a month, through organic sources, not spending money on advertising or anything. They're the number one brand in their city, the number one presence online. They're ranking number one for roofers plus their city. About 40% of all their calls, again, at this stage, are brand-related calls. Again, their authority, expertise, you can see it in the name here. They're going for that local, reliable and trustworthy roofing contractor. That's their authority and an area of expertise. So at this stage, you may be asking, well, okay, do I have to become an authority and an expert? Well, you do, but it's not going to be where you start. You basically, brand authority and expertise is important for the reason that it sells itself. If you're an authority or an expert in your area, you automatically start selling yourself. In fact, most people can be sold in using your services before they even pick up the call to actually call you. If they do enough search and research online and your presence is big enough, they will be sold to your business and what you do long before they actually even call you at a high level. Basically, top of mind, you'll be top of mind with most prospects if you have positioned yourself as an authority and an expert. It cushions you in the slower times to be able to keep growing. So when things slow down, if you're an authority and an expert, you'll still have that primary source of calls and leads coming in. An authority in any niche is self-reinforcing, and as I said, it starts to sell itself. It shields you against your competitors, because if you have set out to become an authority and an expert, for example, if you're going after, say, high quality homes and you're selling yourself as a sort of premium level roofing contractor, or even if it's something like you're the number one flat roofing contractor in your area or even nationally, that becomes a self-reinforcing position of your competitors. It shields you against your competitors in that way. It also allows you to run a consistent flow of sufficient leads, and it will level out that road against the future potential of peaks and troughs. Like I said, this is your solution to try and, getting that level road through the mountain, so you have less of that inconsistency coming in, building up that authority and expertise, generating high volumes of leads and calls using the sources that we said will do that for you. So taking action now, well, what can be done now to start generating calls? All this is well and good, and you have probably a lot of questions with regard to advertising your business and which is the best source to it and where can you start. But what can you start doing now yourself to start generating calls? Well, there are 4 areas you can start working yourself on. You don't need us to start helping you. Google AdWords, you can sign up yourself. They give you 2 options. You want to stay away from the express option or the light version. It's not that great. You want to go for the premium option. You want to run ads to your service pages. So if you're running a flat roofing ad, you want to send that to your flat roofing page. You don't want to send it to the home page. You want to focus on improving your quality score, because the quality score is how Google rank you. That's how they position you as to sort of where you're ranking. You want to connect up your location pages. So if you're running, you want to target, say, suburbs of an area, you want to have a page ranking for those suburbs, and you want to run the ads to those suburb pages as well. And you also want to set up your conversions. So this tracks what ads are converting, what keywords are converting. If you can't trace that, it's going to be difficult to know what's actually working for you. Action 2 would be sign up for Google My Business if you're not already signed up. It doesn't cost anything. Basically, if you just Google My Business profile or your company name plus My Business, you will be able to see if you're verified or not. If you're not verified, you want to sign up. It's free of charge. Fill out everything completely. This will give you an option to post images and information about what you're doing on a weekly basis, which places you inside in the maps, and people will be able to find you then when they're on a mobile device to be able to look for you. Again, another thing, you want to be able to, you want to start collecting your reviews, because they do matter. Some people will only call a company if you have reviews. Just asking somebody for a review once you finish a job, or giving them some sort of a discount or to get you that review, you want to at least have 10 reviews as a minimum. People require that before they start taking you seriously. Action 3, website. You need a basic website. Most people have, but you want service pages. You want location pages. Location pages are pages for the suburbs of the areas you're going after, smaller towns and cities in the county, or even the city that you're positioned in. A good source of information about generating backlinks for your website. If you Google Ahref backlinking guide, it's a great source of information as to where you get backlinks and how to get them. You want to be doing weekly backlinking to your website. Again, all that information is inside in that Ahref backlinking guide. Just Google Ahref, Ahref backlinking guide. And then you want to connect up your location pages to your Google My Business. So you again, if you Google that, how to do that, there's some information. There's a lot of videos on YouTube for it. Action 4, Facebook. You want to be active on your Facebook. You don't necessarily need to run ads on Facebook, but you want to be active. If you finish a job, post the image, tag the person that you did the job for so they see it. Do a before and after picture. Do drone videos. Do just basically respond to people on Facebook, get likes and engagement on it, build that up. So when people when you're in an area, for example, post an image and tag the image as being, say, if it's a roof repair plus city, and then tag the person you did it for. When the search engine picks that up, and also you can also then reuse that image to put it into your Google My Business and post it there as well. So you have all that traction coming in, and when people see it, they like it, and then you engage. If you're back in the area again, or when you're in an area, just let people know, that you're in the area and this is a job we just finished. If you want to quote, Facebook is social. You don't need to be running ads. You want to build up an engagement profile. Primarily, you want to run a video, talk to the video about where you are and what you're doing. When you're on an iPhone, you can turn the video around back to the job you're doing. A company that do this very well would be the Roofing Outlaw. If you go onto Facebook and just search Roofing Outlaw, they do a lot of their videos and they build up an awful lot of business just by social engagement, no ads, nothing, just pure entertainment, and it works very well. So you basically ask yourself, how many estimates did you do in the last 7 days? What did you do in the last 7 days to generate estimates? If you're not doing estimates, if you don't have calls and leads coming in, well then, you need to do something about it. If you don't have calls set up, it's, business grinds to a halt. So if you want to start receiving 20 to 30 calls in the first 4 weeks and grow it every single month after that, well, this is what we do. So we basically help, close that gap with our roofing client system. So we look at today's revenue, what you're making, the future revenue of where you want to get, and then how do you cross the river or cross that chasm when it comes to generating consistent flow of calls and leads every month. With what we do, you'll have a proven system in place and a method to generate calls and volume with the volume you need. So the average cost per call and what you're getting for your return every month. So you can plan ahead basically and know, well, next month if I need X amount of calls, this works and we can continue doing it. You'll finally have that brand authority and expertise and build consistency into your business. Remember, the two parts were be to build brand authority and expertise and generate calls and leads, and both of those are intertwined. If you're building consistent flow of calls and leads, you're building your brand authority and expertise online. If you're building brand authority and expertise online, you're generating calls. They become self-reinforcing. So you'll have left hills to climb. You'll finally have that sort of that straight road, to sort of, the metaphor we're using for driving a road through the mountains, so you're not climbing that hill again. We have that system in place. We've been doing it for a number of years now. We have many clients in roofing contractors and building contractors. So we have that system in place. Now, we are looking for other clients. If you think that you are that client, or this system appeals to you, or it is something at least you'd like to know more about, you remember, if you get in touch and call us, we're not holding you to ransom that you have to take. You want business, that you need to do business with us. That isn't the case. Like, to go back on this, not every client is suitable. Not every client is ready for it. And we understand that, and we know it because we've done this often enough. So we know not every client is suitable. However, if it is something that you think you're ready for, we can make it work for you. But we talk to roofing contractors all the time, and if it's a case of you maybe are not ready yet, but you're going to think about it, we'll certainly talk to you about it and help you out in what you need to get prepared for it. How the process works is basically, if you think this is something that you would be interested in, we do a one-on-one strategy session with you, so we look at where you are now, where you want to get to, if we can help you get there. So we'll basically figure out what needs to be done and how do we get you there in the fastest time possible. So we sort of, as I said, we look at where you are now, the revenue, the future revenue you want to get to, the number of calls it's going to take to get there, the best system to use that to get there, generate those calls, so you can start planning ahead and planning for the next few months ahead. Who is this for? Well, roofing contractors and business owners in general who are already in business and operating. It's not suitable for people starting out for a number of reasons, but it's not suitable. Who have established business and want to increase their business or grow their brand. I suppose it's more people that want to grow the business and are a little bit ambitious and want to, to drive their business on a little. It's also for roofing contractors who want to build out their brand authority and position themselves as a leader in this space. Less so of the roofing contractor wants to take a back seat and things, It's for business owners that truly love what they're doing, and you also have to understand that you need to have some skin in the game when it comes to getting this done. The better the fit, the better the results. As I said already, the better the fit, the better the win for both of us. If this is suitable for you, we'll know probably before you will. If it is suitable, we can power ahead and get the results. If it isn't suitable, we won't work with you, because it's just going to cost you money and cost us time and money, and that isn't what we're about. This system is fairly, dialed in. We know how it works. As I said already, we don't work with every roofing contractor or every contractor in general, as much as we'd like to. And for a number of reasons, we can't do that. There's a lot of time involved in getting this working for any roofing contractor. And also, we tend to work with 1 to 2 roofing contractors at most in a city or area, and we don't go over that. If it's a very smaller city or suburb, we'll only work with 1 roofing contractor. So we can't do it anyway, and we probably don't want to in any case, So if this is something that you think you'd at least want to know more about, there's a button underneath the video here. You click on that. That will take you into a page where you can book an appointment. We will sit down and just have a quick chat over, half an hour to see where you are, where you're going to, and if it's something we can help you with, we can talk further on it. If it isn't, we hope this helps you at least in deciding what you need to do to start generating more calls. We showed you the areas you need to focus on. in helping you advertise your business and building that brand authority. And if we can help you out sometime in the near future, by all means, get in touch with us. I hope this has been of help to you. My name is Patrick, and been good talking to you. Take care.